Hello to the Mozaik community. Today we're going to talk about product libraries and the products within them. Just a quick disclaimer. I am not a professional at making these videos like some in our Mosaic community. So bear with me through my long pauses and jumping around as thoughts come to mind. Much like the type of food my wife tells me I should be eating, this video is organic in nature. Uh, I am a longtime Mosaic user, like many of you. Um, I am basically in this program all day, every day. I wanted to share with you my approach on product libraries with the hope that you may find some useful ideas for your libraries. Now, I'm going to assume that many of you, your library may look like this. I mean, this is the stock frameless V12. Obviously, most of you know that you can organize this and make it be what you need it to be or structured in a way. But I know a lot of users, um, or they're just dragging products in and they'll modify them to suit their needs. I mean, we'll just take a sink base, for instance. You want this to be a full height door sink base. How do you deal with that? Maybe you're going to drop this in, modify it, um, and hope everything machines or be forced to take the time to double check it. Or, if you want to, add roll out trays inside this cabinet, you're, dragging this in, dropping trays in. All that's fine and good. I don't want to knock how this is set up, but I just want to maybe challenge you with a alternate approach to how to handle your library. We'll go down to this one here. This is a library that we use within our company. It's kind of developed over time. It's been through some different iterations, but it's, at the moment, there's a lot of products behind all these folders. There's a lot that's in here. But we've got it organized, base, wall, talls, just like you're seeing in the frameless V12. We've got some added, sections in here. But it's all meant to be, organized in a way so that, anyone using Mozaik, one of my employees or whoever, they can find the products that they need. So for me, I find that having a much larger list of purpose-built products has many benefits to it. Number one that comes to mind is it saves time. And that time savings comes with reducing the need to modify products on the fly. You're not dropping in kind of a generic cabinet and then having to organize it and section it and that kind of thing. You can just kind of drop in that cabinet; it's ready to go. The other one is it reduces mistakes. If you take the time to set it up right and save it for reuse, it is a lot better approach than constantly remodifying a cabinet. Like I think of microwave bases or oven cabinets or cabinets with special configurations. I mean, how many times have you created these out of a standard cabinet, didn't save it back, and then you got to make it again on the next job or the next job? That kind of thing. Oh, what did I do on that one? Or maybe you saved it back to your favorites or something. But um, the bottom line is it can help reduce mistakes because you're kind of locking down. You're defining that cabinet. This is what this cabinet's meant to do, um, and and it gets dropped in and it gets used the way that it needs to get used. Um, and then the big one is, for me at least, if others in your company are designing also, it keeps everyone working off the same sheet of music. This benefit is actually the very reason why I've invested the time in my libraries like I have. Just some examples. Like I don't want my staff or designers adding parts. I don't want them overwriting materials. I don't want them stretching things beyond feasibility, moving hinge locations, swapping out hardware, a whole host of other things that ultimately cost me a lot of time. Not only me, but my other engineering staff, that helps us get things ready for G code and for the shop. Um, having to kind of weed through a design that another employee had made, modified this cabinet, changed this, changed that, did this, did that. I mean, to track that stuff down is just a pain. And I mean, just imagine with me for a second being able to take maybe a difficult cabinet like an oven cabinet, a built-in oven cabinet that you can just drop into a job. The designer's told to enter in, the rough openings of the appliance, and it's ready to go. It's ready almost at that point just to be G-coded. I mean, you may have to check the material template on the job, or make sure that all the job settings are set up the way that they're supposed to. But ultimately, it's a drag and drop cabinet, which obviously is a huge benefit in cost savings and that kind of thing. So it's worthwhile the time and energy it takes to think through and create these different products. It really is worth it. Okay. So just kind of a review of my library structure. Basically what I've done is I've tried to organize it in such a way where it's kind of like my materials, where I try and think of a high level descriptor, like what is it? It's a base single, it's a base pair, it's a base full height door. If we click into the base single door, for instance, this is where you're going to find your single base with trays all set up. This is where you're going to find maybe tiered cutlery options, cabinets that are already set up and ready to rock and roll. I've found this to be two benefits. One, it keeps the overall library tree compact, where there's a lot of products that are behind all this, but it does keep it organized. And it just doesn't get long, I guess, is the big thing. The other piece is if you're laying this out, I mean, you can organize this library where these items sit in a way that makes sense to you. For us, we've just tried to kind of standardize things, fillers, returns, and applied doors are always down at the bottom, that kind of thing. And then I also, at least in this library, and this is something I could challenge you to do, I mean, my preference is to try and stay within one library, not having to swap libraries all the time. So you'll see as we kind of go through some of these products in here, I've got miter folds set up in here. I've got paneled appliances in here. I've got special fillers and that kind of thing, all within this library, where I'm not having to switch out to another library or explain that to a designer. Well, you got to go over to this library to grab that part and then back. So again, just trying to simplify things, condensing it into one library. And then as we go through this, we'll just kind of review some of these base pair door. You can see I've got things set up. I mean, as you expand this out, we've got a lot of different options. Got single full height doors with trays, glass, pairs with trays. You can see, I mean, these are just single products that are behind here. Now, granted, these have trays, so I've, as you know, if you use the Century X bracket system, this is just a step I've taken. I went ahead and created, multiple depths, so I don't have to worry about a designer or another employee, making sure to change the spacing between the pilasters, that kind of thing. So, these are purpose-driven. They're ready to rock and roll as soon as they drop in, straight to the CNC for the most part. Drawer bases, again, just trying to eliminate the amount of need to section anything. I've got one drawer, knee drawers basically set up. I've got just a simple 2-drawer base. I think you get the idea here. This is already set up and ready to go. Different versions of 3-drawer bases, 4-drawer bases, and then I leave room for some specialty configurations, that kind of thing. Sink base, again, singles and pairs, just easy to drop in. Full height options. I've got the short case options. Apron sinks come in with the sink ready to go on there, at least for representation, and the spec of the sink actually determines the height of this cabinet as well. So it's the designer can go ahead and put in the specs for the sink as far as width, height, and depth, and the cabinet will modify around that cabinet. Corner sink options, base corner cabinets. You get the idea, right? Floating shelves all within here. Some miscellaneous miter folds for countertops, things like this. So they can just drag and drop these things in and use them as they see fit. So I guess what I'd like to just kind of touch on is, if you're going to kind of build out a library, you're going to work through restructuring your library. How do you determine what products you want in there? I guess. I mean, every company is going to be a little bit different. But what I would encourage you when you are setting up a product for your library is take the time to think about a few things. Think reusability. Take the time to set up, stretching limits. I only want this cabinet to stretch a given amount, maximum and minimum. That way, it's not being stretched out of its bounds. This would be going for a single door or pair door situation that would apply to that. Maybe it's a tall cabinet where you don't want it stretched, beyond, what an 8 foot, what you could get out of an 8 foot sheet, that kind of thing. Maybe 99 inches because you got a 4-inch toe and or 100 inches tall or whatever the case is. But you could limit that so you don't have somebody that's accidentally putting in a cabinet at 102 and it's using 8 foot material. You have a separate cabinet set up for, that's either pre-split or it's ready to go using a taller material template, so it can just be dropped in and go. Think of ease of use as well when you're creating and saving these products back. One thing to continue. I mean, the goal that I would challenge you with is make it as drag and drop as possible. You drag in, a product. There isn't a lot you need to do. The amount of time you got to spend in the product editor is actually pretty minimal. Okay, if that makes any sense. I would also mention that when you're setting up these purpose products, as a general rule, limit the amount of overrides that you're placing. If you're not going to override the doors, okay, and that kind of stuff. You want this product to work well with all of your door and drawer and hardware libraries, varying job situations, that kind of thing. That being said, if you're setting up something specific, let's say it's a miter fold product is a great one. And there's two paths that can really go, or more, but generally it's, like it's going to be cut out of a piece of MDF or a veneered material. So maybe you set up a specific MDF miter fold filler, L filler, and then you've also got a veneer specific one, as an example. The other thing that I would encourage also is using the notes tab. I think this is a hidden gem within Mozaik that people just don't pay attention to, is the notes tab. If you're creating a custom product, it is a great place to put instructions for either myself, so I remember what the heck I did to make the cabinet what it is, or to somebody else that is actually using the cabinet, needing to set it up on a job. They have the notes and instructions there to utilize. The other beauty of the notes tab too, just as a for instance, is it's a great place to put a link to maybe the product. Here's a Le Mans blind corner. I've linked the product at Hayfla. I've also linked a YouTube video. Obviously, you're not going to live link out of this, but you can certainly copy this and paste it into your browser. But it's right there for whoever's using this product. This information's there for them to utilize and have access to. The notes tab is a big one. We use that quite a bit just to help us out. The other hidden gem that is fantastic is if we look at this elevation view, for instance, these notes that are showing up on the cabinet. These are coming from an insert. I have a whole library of insert elevation notes, is what we call them. this is just a quick way to drop in a note on a product, save it back to your library, and every time you bring in that cabinet, it's going to say that note on the front. So it's really helpful, just making your drawings, your multi-prints more complete. It's a way to pass a note, like, hey, you need to look at the notes tab before you mess around with this cabinet, that kind of thing. But the notes tab or the inserts tab is amazing. The other awesome thing about the inserts tab is, like, if we come in, for instance, to this cabinet, we'll look here at the parts, for instance. Now, this is actually one where we've got native parts. Let me find one that is, here's one right here. Here's a 4-tray tall cabinet, and it's utilizing the X series brackets and that type of thing. It's grabbing our pilasters. We're getting those put in there, but we're also adding this insert here that is going to add our ancillary parts. So we're not, and I'll show that to you here in a moment, but it's adding, just by adding that insert into the interior tab, this 4 series tray, it's adding a part to my parts list for the bracket kit that I need to get for this unit. In some cases, it may be, you can add part numbers to things as well, which is actually nice to have. Well, here's a good one right here. Things can have a part number next to it. This all shows up in your list. This is really, really helpful utilizing the inserts, okay? Even if it's just a note for the face of, on an elevation, a simple note like, the top hinges, the center's different on those cabinets. This is fantastic when you're needing to maybe annotate your door list and hand it to the guys in the shop. It's easy for them to just look at the plan viewer on the list and see that, that pair of doors for cabinet 1, top hinges are 8 1/4 centers, that kind of thing. The other thing I would mention is you can use the pricing options. Okay, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but in the pricing tab, you have to be in the library to add a pricing option. Like right now, you can't add or modify this. But if you add an option and you tell it to ask you that option, that pricing option, what's nice is, let's delete this cabinet. We'll bring it back in. And you get a pop-up. And this is awesome. So, you get this quick pop-up. We use this for a couple different products, and it's really just to bring attention to whoever's using that cabinet that you need to do this or you need to do that, or it's something. So instead of using it for a pricing option, we use it as a way to communicate a note, a warning, just something to flag that thing when it gets dropped in, that, this cabinet's special, or it has, additional information, like this cabinet's unusable without using the notes tab. It's the bottom line. And that's why we have this set up that way. It's actually quite nice, and nice little feature to utilize, but those can be all added, and I'll just quickly show that to you. This can be added. What am I doing here? Here we go. This can be added while you're in the library. This is where you can add these notes, and you can just click it to say ask. And then when you drop in this product, whatever you put in here for a description of that item will show up as the pricing option, or just call it a note, a pop-up note. So it's just a little trick that you guys can use to bring attention to something. The other thing that you can do is consider adding some junk materials to your library to assist with adding more information to your products. Either adding them directly to your products or adding them through the use of an insert. This, like for instance, this cabinet here, we've got that insert I was showing you down here. This one comes in as an ancillary part. This is a material, but it's just a junk material. It's not getting cut on the CNC, obviously. All it's meant to do is to add a material to the cut list tab that can be filtered, um, that can be filtered uh, for what needs to get ordered. The other benefit of that, especially on an insert, is that when you go to the cut list tab, for instance, on this job here, if we were to go to the ancillary parts tab, you're getting a list of what you need to order. And then the beauty here, I feel like this is the beauty, because if you use an insert without a part attached to it, that insert shows up in your pricing, but it doesn't really indicate what cabinet it goes in. When you have this part as part of the insert, I mean, it's adding that part. You now have a it's associated with a cabinet number, which is nice. I mean, if you don't do this, I mean, you've got a Le Mans unit that is like, I don't know, or you got to write it down on a piece of paper to remember to order it or whatever the case is. But this allows you to kind of consolidate your notes and get things together. We also, here's some examples of some junk materials we use. Shop related notes. This is a list that we print out that goes out with our job packets. We add notes to products all the time. That top hinges at 8.25. It's associated with cabinet 1. This makes it easy to annotate our door list or just hand it to the shop guys, so they know that cabinet 1's got that. We've got a loose blind filler that needs to get shipped inside the cabinet. I don't want it attached. That kind of thing. It's a great way to pass those kind of notes. The other one is design related notes. We use this quite a bit too. This is very, very helpful, and something to consider when you're setting up a product that maybe others within your company are using. You can add a design related note to something. We use this list as a double check for us. Somebody's used a finished interior cabinet. I want to go in and verify, what are we building that cabinet of? Are we going to, here at the engineering side of things, are we going to swap it to MDF? Are we going to go to, an MDO type product, or Combi Core MDF faced material, or are we just going to paint melamine? Whatever the case is. And then this is coming from a specialty product, and I'll kind of show that to you guys here before we're done too. But this is just a reminder that, hey, this product's been saved back with a overridden door. You need to check it and make sure that it matches the selections for the job. It's just a way to remind yourself of things. And if you think about this stuff while you're designing the product and saving it back to your library, these kind of things can be really, really helpful with not forgetting the key stuff. We've all misordered doors. We've all missed something and had it cost us money, whatever the case is. And again, you can imagine, you can really go to an nth degree on these notes and stuff, but this is very, very helpful. We use this like crazy. Here's another junk material we have in our material library: ordered trim, fillers, and panels. This is like outsourcing stuff. We run into it with, like for instance, we use Northern Contours, which is an RTF door manufacturer. And when we have a Northern Contours job, we may be using their trims, their toe skin as parts, their applied doors, those type of things. We don't want that showing up on our cut list as MDF or a slab door. That, well, wait a minute, are we ordering that or are we cutting that? What are we doing? What are we doing with that kind of thing? So when we're dealing with products that are outsourced, I like to note them as being outsourced. Like if I click on this filler, which is just simply this little J filler right here, okay, you can see that it is called I've got it labeled buyout. And this is an example of a cabinet with an override where we've overridden the materials to my material template that uses ordered trims, fillers as the part type. Obviously, we're not cutting it. I just need it to show up on that list as this is what needs to get ordered. I need to order a 3-inch and a 6-inch, or whatever the case is. And I'll add, you can really dig into this even further, but there's options here where you can put formulas, behind some of this where it's always going to come out as a 3-inch filler, but at least visually, they can be changed. as far as width goes, but you're getting these whole part sizes. We can go into detail on that some other time, but there's a lot that you can do that way. The other thing I would mention too is we've all seen, kind of the erratic or floating, product numbers on things. You can right click on these numbers and move these labels and then save that back to your library. And every time you bring in that cabinet, it's going to drop in. So this is an opportunity while you're creating your products to go ahead and get those notes and get the numbers or the product numbers positioned where you want them to go each time they're drug into a job. It just, again, makes multi-print a lot easier. It makes your drawings look cleaner. The numbers at a place maybe that makes sense to you, okay, if that makes any sense. You can also move these insert labels too, just by move label. You can move it anywhere on this cabinet you want, save it back. It's always going to come back in that position. The other thing that I would mention too, if you are taking the time to develop these products, to drop into your job and lock them down, I would say, test them thoroughly before you kind of roll them out, I guess, if that makes any sense. And that would really go for, especially if you've got any cabinets with overrides, added parametric parts, that kind of thing. Basically, just try and break the cabinet. Try and break it. Does it function the way that you want it to function? Did you make a filler that is made to be flush with the door? Did you make sure that the subtight is set to a filler or an applied panel so that it's picking up your reveals, when it's placed next to a cabinet? Those are all important things to consider, okay? The other thing I would note as well, and I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to show this to you really quickly, something that can save some time. We're just going to use this as an example. Let's say I've made this. This is a bad example. I'm going to find a better example. Let's go to a filler. Let's take a standard filler, for instance. I'm going to just drag in a full height one. And let's say I've made this filler, and and this is a plain one, so it's no big deal. But let's say I've taken time to get the name set up. I've got all this stuff done. I've gone through to the pricing tab. I've removed it from linear calculations. Maybe I have swapped out the materials potentially to another material template, or maybe I've added parts to this. Like an example here where this has got a part that is graphic only. That's what shows on the design. And the other part is what it'll always be. It'll always be 3 or 6, depending on the width of the filler. It's always going to default to a 3 or 6 inch part that gets made by our shop. There's some work involved with this. Well, now I've got the stinking filler that's made for a base, and I want it. Now I need a tall version and I need a wall version. Something you can do is, and I'm going to name this. I mean, what you're going to start with is you'll just change the name to something. Obviously update your description. Change this to a wall cabinet. Okay, when we started with a base, now we're in a wall cabinet. We can say that we've changed that name. Now it's saying that we do not have that product in our library because it is a new name. It doesn't match up with anything. Okay, so at this point, I would come through. It's like, well, now it's a wall cabinet. I'm going to turn stretching back on. I'm going to set it as just a starting point of 36. Of course, that's going to be dictated by your soffit height on each job. You're going to play with, these different stretching items. It's a wall filler, so it's going to be 12 inches deep. That kind of thing. And I'm trying to think of anything else that you'd want to do, but essentially you can go ahead and save changes, save to the library, and you're going to get the notification that you added that product. Now it's in a weird spot. So here's what I do. I just take that filler, I delete it. I go back down to my library. It's been added to my library tree. I come in, and at this point I will grab my label. I'll move it up, and I'll open this guy back up, and I save him back to the library. I just update that current one. And now I have a wall filler with all the things that I took the time to make a base filler with. You can do the same thing with a tall. You can start out with a tall filler, a base filler, and turn it into a tall filler quite easily. It just saves you some time on creating more products off of one. Okay, so it isn't like you have to start with a wall filler and just work with wall fillers. You can start with a different product type and actually turn it into something else. So just a little time savings thing makes it a little bit easier to add those parts and pieces. The only other thing that I would like to mention is examples of purpose built may be the way to go here. Finished interior cabinet. Here's a good example. Okay, we've already gone through. Now we'll have to always adjust the ends because it'll really depend if the exterior is finished or not. But like in our shop, we want our label to say finished adjustable shelf, finished interior top. I want my finisher to see that part, even though it's white melamine or plywood or wherever the case is, that interior of the bottom gets painted or gets finished, interior top. So again, finished interior, I want it to differentiate. They're going to see that cabinet come in that way. And, I've got a note in here, that basically, from the engineering side, we're going to go ahead and double check the material template. Are we actually going to make it out of plywood? We're going to adjust this name. If this is a finished end on the left, we're going to add fin interior or fin two side left end, and then maybe the right is unfinished, and they would just say fin and fin int end. So that way, these labels, the labels that we print out at CNC, they're going to know, hey, that's a finished part. So this is a pain in the butt to do on the fly as you go. But if you make this once, you're good to go. I mean, you don't have to worry about renaming things all of the time. It just you're not winging it, I guess, as much is what it comes down to. Flush bottom cabinets. This is a great example. I mean, if you've got if your wall cabinets typically have a scribe on the bottom or they're recessed, save them back as specific cabinets that can be used. That kind of thing. I think you're getting the point. But essentially, we'll just kind of cruise through this library one more time. I want to kind of show you just a few things that we have in here. Base fillers is a great place to start where I'm calling out different materials. And you don't have to do this, obviously. We've done it for us because it makes it a lot easier. It's a lot less things to double check on our final list when it comes out to the shop. A design comes to our shop and we have to engineer it, get it ready to order or cut. I've just within fillers, standard fillers, I have a wood version that's using some type of S4S for the job. I've got a banded version, so if the filler needs to be made out of TFL or it's veneered material, they're using a banded. Outsource, meaning I'm ordering that baby from somewhere. It's coming from Wallscraft, it's coming from Northern Contours, it's coming from Conestoga, whatever the case is. When I drag this in, it's already set to outsource material. I don't have to think about it or anything. If I want an MDF one, it's going to come in and it's just locked down MDF. That is examples of overridden products where they're very, very intentional. That's what they're meant to be used for. But you can see just within fillers how kind of exotic you can get with some of this stuff. We've got standard L fillers, rights and lefts in here. I could even go further here with like separate folders underneath this area. We've got standard, U fillers that drop in. They're just basically drop-in columns. Our designers use these frequently. I don't know why, but they're there. We've got some standard voided corners where we can just bring them in and take they've got control over the filler width and that kind of thing, but it's just an instant corner. You don't have to worry about putting both fillers on both walls if they choose to use it. We've got overlay base fillers that all come in pre-canned and ready to rock and roll. We've got all of our miter folds are in here, ready for quick use. It's right here on the job. They're working. I need a filler. They don't have to switch libraries. It's right here. Done. Same thing with two-piece fillers. We've got on edge fillers where it's kind of meant to sit front to back like that. So that's done. Um, in addition to fillers, we try and catch, returns. We've got the different miter fold products in here for L's and J's and U's and all that kind of thing. For us, that we found this to be quite helpful. Applied doors as well. I got face applied options, meaning they're meant to be put on a wall or on an island, and then end applied base panels or doors, are meant to be put on the side of a cabinet. So they're all separated out that way. And then I have them canned out in heights as well, where, this is a full height, meaning floor to underneath the countertop, 30.5, which would be, case height option. And then I've got an applied door that's set, basically full height door height, which would be require a finished end on the end of the cabinet, but it's got the reveals that match the front of the cabinet, that kind of thing. So these are just examples of things that we've thought of. And now that we've got them saved, we can just drag them in. We don't have to bring in our standard one product base applied door. I'm like, oh crap, now I got to go do this. I got to do that. I got to change this. I got to add that reveal. This allows you to get it taken care of quickly. And then each section has just a dumb custom base cabinet, custom wall cabinet, custom tall cabinet. Now, this cabinet is the one that I always tell our staff to, if they are not finding the product they need, and they all know how to add a drawer and shape and section out a cabinet, I make them use this cabinet. This consolidates that. Those cabinets need to be looked at very, very closely, but it allows them to continue working on the design. They can section it and do whatever the heck they want to do to it, get it in there, so that at least it can be sorted out, and I can figure out what has to happen to that cabinet. So yeah, I don't know what else to. I guess what I would add maybe is this: cabinet doors, drawer fronts, tops and mids. Obviously, those don't always come in quite the way we want to. We've got a sample door drawer front set that's kind of nice, where they can just drag it into a job, and they got a drawer front and a door, approval sample that they can just order. It comes with a MDF backer, that kind of thing. We also have cabinet size door sets. We use this on islands sometimes, where you're basically dealing with the cabinet size, which is kind of nice. It comes in, it's an 18. I can change that to 21. It's going to produce a door that works with my reveals right off the get-go. It can be quite helpful in some situations. So just something to think about there. Doors and trays. These are weird, and maybe I could share this with the group if this is something that you guys would be interested in, but these are actually cabinets that have been just heavily, all the parts removed, a bunch of other things. I had to come up with another guide option. But essentially, when you put that loose drawer or tray in, it adds the guide. It adds, it allows you to actually, place, like for instance, if you were to put this cabinet in here, this is a 10 foot or 10 inch tall, 21 deep. I come into the product and hardware, it's giving me my guides. I'm getting my guides on a list. So I don't have to remember that I have this reface job that I need the guides set for. It's going to come with the guides. So just an example of the kind of thought you can put into your libraries. So I think we're coming up on 40 minutes. I've been talking way too much, but I hope that some of the things that we talked about you would find useful, that you could use to improve your library or your setup or the products within your library. Maybe save you some time not having to modify and change things quite so much, where you can just have a library that is purpose built, but it's all still custom sizable, I guess is the way to go. And I guess what I'll add here at the end before I get out of here is I actually took the time a year ago to build out a library that I've now destroyed because this thing got way too big is basically what happened. But I literally made products for every size configuration and had them locked down so they can be just dragged in. Great idea in theory, not fun saving products back to that library and making use of it. Having the stretching properties opened up, at least for width, if the product is meant to be stretched, is important. I would highly recommend not going this route to this level of detail. It just doesn't work very well. Or if you were going to go that way, go, enable modular sizing, in your library so that, cabinets are being stretched in 1, 2, 3 inch increments, whatever you choose to be the case. But most of us are cutting custom anyway, so that really doesn't apply a whole lot. But anyway, I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching.